Hello and welcome. I'm Dr. Scott Mantie, and the purpose of this presentation is to help you understand your values so that you could effectively decide on what you might do as a career. Whether you want to be a performer, a student, a business professional, or even build your own company, being able to understand how your values work and ultimately how your passions work will help you be successful and help you be efficient as to what you decide. During this presentation, if you'd like to make comments, please put them in the chat. First slide, please. So we're going to talk about using your passion, figuring out what that passion is, and then applying it. The whole idea is, how can I effectively use who I am to do what it is that I want to do? Let me ask you this. Do you know what you want to do in your life? If you're going to go to college or go on for more studies, do you know what you want to study? If you're going to go into a particular career or business or sell a business product, service at a location, be a performer, be anything, why is it that you're choosing to go in that direction? That is, how have you made that as a decision? How do you know what area you'd like to study in? If going into a particular career or business, how are you choosing that? Why are you choosing to go in that direction? If you know why, how did you decide on that? If you don't know why, how are you going to figure out how that's going to work? Do you have friends or family who decided to go into a business or more studies or to be something in their lives? How did they make those choices? Did anybody ever change after they've gone and do that? Many times we may choose to work somewhere, study a particular major, do a particular career or profession, create a startup, work in a business, produce some product or service without even having any idea how we might choose to do that. If you look at the data that's out there, the research of who is successful and who's not at choosing a career or a path like that is mixed. For example, 50 to 80% of college students change their majors. Many college students will change their majors 3 times before they graduate. Many entrepreneurs, most entrepreneurs, will fail at their business at some point. The 2023 statistics basically says, on the average, an employee has worked for their current employer for about 4.6 years. That's not much if you consider about it. Next slide, please. Think about it. The length of a person's career over the course of a lifetime means that they will work, on average, 90,000 hours. It's estimated that people will have 12 jobs during their lives. Actually, after college, when students obtain their first job, 29% of the people completely change fields so that they're not even working in a field that they studied. I'm a great example of this. For example, I went to college for biophysics. I was doing research. My first job was head botanist at a tree research group. I went to work at a college in the UK. Then I went to Switzerland to work, of all things, a mountaineering and ski instructor. Got my master's degree back in the United States. Went on to get 2 Ph.D s, started my own consulting company, developed, programmed, and marketed the first visitor behavior software. Started another consulting company, was the director at the Department of Education in the States, developed institutional research functions at 9 universities or colleges, have taught at all levels throughout, and I ended up doing this, being a business professor, and that's what I am. And I love it. I never planned to do this, but I ended up here. Don't get me wrong. This is a fantastic place. I feel like this is where I'm supposed to be. But that's a significant example of trying to figure out your passion earlier in life may mean that you're able to figure out what it is that you want to do. You may not need to keep trying jobs or profession. You might find something that fits with you for your values and priorities and passions earlier on. And ultimately, figure out what your career is or decide it like that. Next slide. Okay, why so many changes that people do? Some of the reasons people change careers, salary increase or more benefits. Many times when somebody does that, they have to end up re-educating themselves or receiving additional training. Changing philosophies and goals. Maybe they want to be involved in environmental concerns or a assisting others or supporting some sort of a mission of an organization. Or maybe the leadership is just unsatisfactory. They're not being recognized. They're not getting the benefits or increases. They're getting low compensation. Or maybe they want greater flexibility. Their values and priorities have changed. They're trying to juggle a career, personal life, family life. They're trying to get this thing called work-life balance down, so it works out professionally for them. What is the dominant common item across these reasons and changes? Next slide, please. Changes in persons are discovering their values. We want to try to reduce our guessing as to what's important to what it is that we're doing versus getting in there and deciding what is important. Next slide, please. But how are we going to do that? Like, what are values? Rob Lynch, a CEO, says at the company level, it's a set of fundamental, strategically sound beliefs about a company and how that company should operate. And CEOs are very, very familiar with this. Universities are very familiar with their institutional values. However, few individuals understand specifically what their values are. In fact, many don't even try to understand their own values. Only through understanding your values can you begin to identify your passions and your priorities. Our purpose or task then becomes, how do we identify our personal values? How do you figure them out, apply them to your life, your career, your profession, college major, life, or any other things? As Rob Lynch also says, what we have to do is actually live out your beliefs. What is it that you have going on? So, with this then, how do personal values impact your career choice and work and life places like that, your college majors, and deciding the directions in your life? Your personal values may indicate things that are important in your life from other items that just may be interesting or that maybe you became familiar with or heard about and thought something along those lines. Next slide, please. So by you understanding your specific values, you will be able to understand what you are passionate about and what your priorities are. So how do you identify your values? What kind of mechanism is there? How do we find out what our passion is? Maybe we have some good ideas, but is there a way that we can sift through that or sort through that? It's something that's going to help us with that. Additionally, if we understand our values and we're working with customers or in professions or in careers, we can figure out what our customers then value in something that we're producing or selling or a service that we have. We can promote our value to organizations and to professional groups, thereby increasing our opportunity to be hired. Being able to understand what you value and what the company's value or the organization's values are will allow you to determine if your values and their values are compatible. So let's look at a process or a system that may help you use your values and be able to understand them, potentially what you're passionate about, most importantly, how to effectively apply them to your life so you'll be able to understand some of the choices you have as far as career, education, business, personal opportunities. So we're going to look at this process, and it's called using your passion process, and see if it may work for you. Next slide, please. So here's the using your passion process. It starts off with you. Like, what do you value? If you can't be specific about this, think of something that is very, very specific. Like, for example, what's your favorite food? Not just that you like that food, but specifically what? Maybe it reminds you of home, or maybe it reminds you of your grandmother's cooking, or it's very savory and it's delicious in a variety of ways. How can you give that detail? So if we can do that with what it is that you want to do, like for career, education, startup company, and be very specific about why you want to do that, it starts to lead us into some of the things that we may be passionate about, some of the things that we may track down and will want to do. And then what is it and why? The next bubble is the question. What are you interested in for a career or an area to study in college? Why are you interested in that topic specifically? What are the whys behind it? That's the important one. We get to the bubble on the process that is the idea. And if you're working with or want to work with customers, clients, or people or organizations, what value are you bringing to them that will be something they're looking for? How will you find out what customers or employers or what the expectations are of a career, or what the university has for you? What do they value that you might be able to provide? Do you think you understand customers, employees, and university to know what value they're getting from you? That's what you need to find out. The next bubble, learning. Okay, if you've identified what your passions, values are, and are suggesting some sort of a topic or career or major, you might need to get some additional information to get a chance to find out what are really all the details. So you need to ask yourself, from whom or where can you get that information? The next bubble, exploring and try it. Where can you get more familiar with the topic, the area, the career, the college, the business? From whom or what can you get that information, if possible? And if you get the chance to experience it, can you try it? Maybe by talking to or visiting with somebody already in the field, in that area, that major, that career, and asking them, is there some way that I could participate or get a chance to look at it? The last bubble is evaluate. How you know if you're successful at identifying your values and passions and those customers and our employees, college neighbors, and families and friends. How do you know you're identifying those? What indicators or measures or feedback will help you be able to know that you've addressed the values that others seek, and being able to find your passions that fit with others' values so that you can determine if it's a match. Maybe you need to clarify things. Maybe you need to go in and adjust your values, and maybe there needs to be a better fit. Now you're going to take what you learned through this evaluation process, and you could go back to modify, change, edit, do whatever you want to of you, that first bubble. Next slide, please. The most important parts of this process are you. It all starts with you and it goes from there. The next one is learning. We all need to be lifelong learners. Just because you're a master at your craft doesn't mean you need to stop learning. There might be other ways to apply it. There might be other folks that need to know about it. The other important one is exploring and trying it out. How do you know you don't like it until you try it? You may have chosen to be an accountant, but who knows that unless you tried it, you may be the best guitar player in the world. Wouldn't that have been a shame to go through your life practicing an accountant, but knowing that you had this other skill? Next slide, please. What do we want to accomplish? We want to reduce the guessing about our future. We want to decide what our future will be. We want to think about how to decide what to do rather than learn what we're doing is something we don't like. Generally, there are many times your personal values will significantly differ from others, like your employer, your career, and things may change. You may change. We need to be constantly aware. We want to align our expectations with those who we are dealing with and going to deal with professionally, personally, ethically, and educationally. The task is aligning and coordinating what it is of who we are and being able to figure out what our passions are and how can we use those to help direct our life. During this process that I've just talked about, you're going to learn a tremendous amount about yourself. During this process of going through these kinds of steps, you're going to learn a lot about yourself, just like I did. Every time I had the chance to do something, I tried it. I was a scientist. I was a lecturer. I worked in the UK. I was in Switzerland. I worked as a mountaineering and ski instructor. I worked for years as a ski instructor. I supported myself as a photographer in the United States, produced several books. I did an enormous amount of computer programming. I was an administrator in education. I was a vice president in one of the university systems in the United States. I did an enormous amount of things. I thought, how could I possibly judge what I want to do unless I tried it? So many things I tried, and I loved it. I would say that I had a variety of passions. However, I would do it for a while, and then I would move on from it. So I didn't necessarily settle into it. I didn't settle into one thing, and I loved that. It was great. I had a chance to meet so many people. I competed internationally in sprint kayaking. I was able to travel around the world several times. I taught sailing. I did just an enormous amount of things that were very edifying. I kind of separated my life into these are my avocations, and these are the things I'm going to do possibly for vocational things. I never thought that I would go on for 2 PhDs. I'm glad I did, except during the process, it was pretty rigorous and pretty tough like that. And I don't think I really regret anything. And that's my advice to you, is to get out and try it. I had a great time. I'm an avid astronomer, for example. I have a large telescope that I travel around with, and things like that. I do star parties for the neighborhood kids when it's a nice clear night, things along those lines. And so it's delightful. I'm also a prolific bicycle racer. I'm going to race up the steepest uphill bicycle race allegedly in the world next month, hopefully. And so that's it. My advice is, if you get a chance, try it. How can you evaluate if you don't try it? You'll find out what your passions are, or you'll find out what you like, and those will start to separate. Thank you.